What's going on? I Hate Average Podcast. It's Jay. Another week, another episode. I'm excited about this one. Last week we had Royale from Notorious VAG. A lot of fun. We talked about starting a business, some of the issues that happens when starting a home-based business. It was cool. We had some laughs. Definitely a different conversation. So if you haven't heard it, check it out. The episode from last week. This week, I am actually going to share an episode where I was a guest on another podcast. The podcast is called the Lafter Divorce podcast. It's a relationship podcast. Mainly talks about divorces, but clearly I'm not divorced. But we talked about just issues that come up in a relationship. I got a little personal, talked about some of the issues, the things that I had to clean up at the time. This was recorded last year, I believe. Last year, towards the end of last year, like October, November, something like that, where it was a snowstorm and I was actually a guest. So it was a lot of fun. It was a little different, me being a guest and me getting asked the questions instead of me asking the questions. So definitely check out this episode with me and Leanne Linsky from Lafter Divorce. Also check out her podcast if you haven't. So here it is, Lafter Divorce.
I am here with Jay, and Jay, where are you today?
I'm in New York.
New York. You're gonna get a snowstorm tomorrow, right?
Yeah, can't wait. Got the day off. So.
Nice. You've already planned. The grocery stores are probably cleaned out of everything like usual.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are talking to you today, not because you are divorced, but because you are married, right?
I am. Yes, I am.
And you guys are working some things out, I understand.
Yeah, I guess we're in the damage control stage right now.
Okay, well, that's not funny, but I can understand.
No, it's not
can relate.
funny. Yeah.
As we sit here and I laugh, that was rude. So.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
So you guys have been married how long?
We're going on 3 years, but we've been together for 8 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time. So how did you guys meet? Did you meet in New York?
Yes, we did. We met at work. We both was taking training at the same time. We both started the job around the same time, so we had similar training, and that's when we met.
I see. Another on-the-job romance.
Yeah.
And then, so you guys have been dating. How long did you date before you got married?
I would say, probably 5 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's 4 or 5 years. Okay, first of all, this is why you're in damage control state, Jay. You need to know.
Okay, yeah. 5 years. 5 years.
This is red flag.
Exactly.
So 4 or 5 years. So obviously, when it starts out, every relationship is great, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you do want to talk about what's going on with you guys now?
Well, now we something, I guess, we've been having a lot of disagreements about things. So now we're actually in marriage counseling, which it has us communicating a lot better. Hasn't been as many fights, so that's what we've been working on now.
That's great. That is really great. When before you went to counseling, you were obviously having some trouble and everything. Whose idea was it to go?
I think it was mutual, because he was like, before we kill each other, when things get really bad, let's just, get a mediator inside this. Things got really, really bad. I had an iPhone 6, which I loved, and she ended up shattering it. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to fight her back, so let's get someone, a referee in here, and try to calm things down in the house.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that you both agreed that that's a good idea. And I mean, it's hard to do if someone's not willing to go, If one person's going, that isn't exactly helping as much. So how long have you been in counseling?
Wow. It's actually fairly new, so I would say probably within the last 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. So, and you can already see a difference.
Yeah, I can see the difference.
What kind of change? You're not arguing as much as you already said. And
I guess, being that just having we're saying what we want to say to each other, but it's not at an angry level. We're not on level 10 when we're saying it in front of someone, and it's kind of a smoother road.
Okay, so you're able to say what you mean and mean what you say, but not say it mean.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well that's great. In 3 weeks, that's some big progress if you're taking note. And so when you guys decided to go to counseling, how did you go about picking your counselor?
Well, she was pretty direct with that. She said, I just want a black lady. So I said, all right.
That was it? That was your only requirement?
Yeah, that was the requirement. She said she wanted a black woman. So I said, you know what? I would just look up whoever takes our insurance, a black woman, that's what we rocking with.
And it's working out, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you think so that's a good question. Do you think that the race matters?
To me, it didn't, but I guess to her, she feels more comfortable speaking with a black woman. So I think I felt I could express myself with anyone, but I guess I wanted her to be comfortable also. So I just went with her idea.
So she felt she could relate better, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. That just cracked me up. So
yeah,
and your insurance takes it. So hey, fantastic.
Exactly, yeah.
That's important too, because that stuff can be expensive.
Oh man, of course.
That is really expensive. So usually I've found that men are a little bit more resistant to going to counseling, but you seemed really willing right away. You didn't have any apprehension about going?
I mean, you know why? Maybe because I felt that I was right, so I wanted someone, just to point out that how right I am. So,
did she tell you were right? Have you been right about anything?
She didn't say it in those words because she didn't want. I think she didn't want to offend my wife, but but she said that she understood where I was coming from, so that made me feel good.
Well, that's great. She's doing her job then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad you're confident in all this, considering you couldn't remember how long you guys have been together, Jay.
Nah.
I better edit that out if she's going to be.
I know, yeah.
Does she know that you're doing this podcast recording?
Oh, yeah, I told her. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was fine with that, as long as we don't mention her name.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, that's great. So what are you learning about yourself in counseling that maybe you didn't already know?
Let's see. I think just this being able to understand understand how my actions make her feel. I think is trying to understand it, because sometimes you just do things and you just assume that they don't care, but they pay attention to it. Your partners pay attention to every little thing that you do, and you don't even think about it. Mm-hmm. That's something that I really been more aware of.
Yeah, I think someone told me once, stop paying attention to what he's not saying and listen to what he is saying, because I think that friend of mine had told me that, because I was like, well, he says this, but he's doing that. She goes, but he's telling you this. And that's what you have to hear, because men are pretty straightforward. Don't try to read more into it than what it is. If he's saying this, that's probably that. Yeah. And that took a long time, because I think we always want to read more into something than we should. Is that what you're finding out with women?
Yeah, definitely one. I could leave stuff out or not, forget to clean up something. And she finds it
basically offensive, like I'm doing it to disrespect her. It's not. I'm not doing it to disrespect her. I just forgot. But in her mind, her mind just wondering, oh, disrespecting me.
Yeah, you're doing it to make her mad and to piss her off and show her. And she's probably like, no, I've been there. I totally get it. That's a big learning process because I don't know where we get that from, but we're like, well, when he walked away, he did this and that. And it's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly, yeah. It's just my reaction. Maybe I had to go to the bathroom, but you just...
but no, you weren't going to the bathroom. In our mind, like, you were going to call another woman, and you were going to go, like, ride past her house. Like, our imagination is phenomenal when it comes to this stuff. So it's nice when you have to sit down and talk about it. And then have you had a moment when you find out that your actions are read that way and your mind is just, like, blown or something? Are you like, seriously?
Definitely. But it makes me more aware of my actions. I catch myself doing things, and then I'm like, you know what? Let me take a step back and not do that. I don't want her to think anything else. So I've been trying to play things safely, which has been avoiding our arguments. So.
What's the number one thing? Like, what was the biggest complaint? What do you think? Like, what was the biggest complaint that you do?
The biggest argument I could say is my fault, but I guess speaking to other women online, me personally, I felt it's wrongfully so because I didn't want to offend her, but I just felt that it was okay because it was online. It wasn't anything physical, but I've learned through counseling that it's just very, very, very wrong. So
let's talk about this. This is interesting, and I bet a lot of people have run into this problem. How did she find out you were talking to people online, to other women?
I guess, just using the same computer. She just happened to come along and seeing things.
And did you have incriminating evidence on there?
I did.
I want to know, so you didn't think you were doing anything wrong, or did you know you were doing something wrong and you thought it was just harmless anyway?
That's what it was. I thought it was harmless. I knew it wasn't on the up and up, but I just felt it was harmless.
Now, if she hadn't found it, would you have ever told her that you were doing that?
Nah, I definitely would never told her.
Isn't that interesting? This is something. Don't you find, maybe it's just me, but if there's something that I can't tell my significant other, then I'm probably doing something I shouldn't be doing.
I mean, you're right, but I don't know. It's just a lot of things that people do that we just never talk about, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are some things, like, I don't have to tell them, like, I did my hair different, like little things, right? Like things that aren't going to be. But when it comes to talking to other men or other women, I mean, we already know the rules of this game.
Yeah.
Right? And if I'm doing something and I don't feel comfortable in telling him, if I'm even going out for a drink with somebody, I mean, the most natural thing in the world we know is like when it's a friend and it's nothing, if it's a guy friend for you or a girlfriend for me, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go out with, Nancy tonight, and we're going to have a drink, and you don't think about it twice. You just say it because there's nothing to hide. The minute I say something like, oh, I'm going to go out tonight and have a drink, and I leave that part out, the next question's going to be, who are you going with? And then if I don't respond like, oh, it's Nancy, or instead I say, oh, a friend, flag, that's a red, something's up. I mean, that's just, if I can't say who it is without feeling awkward, or I try to avoid saying it, then I probably am doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's, I don't know, I always wonder, why do people, it's kind of like, okay, you're going to counseling. I've talked to other people who have a therapist and they go to counseling for something, and I say, well, did you mention that to your therapist? And they're like, well, no, I don't tell her about that.
And then what's the point
of going to therapy if you're not going to talk about, clearly know what you're doing is wrong because the voice of reason is the person you're not telling. You know?
Yeah.
So so knowing that you were doing these things and now you're caught, I mean, do you feel like you've learned a lesson, or do you feel like, oh, you could do it again as long as you're not caught? Or
No.
or would you guys have an agreement that you can do it and she doesn't care?
No, I mean, I know can't do it without her caring. I know that's not an option.
Yeah.
And I know doing it and hiding it is not an option. So it's something it's just a part of my life that I'm just not interested anymore. You know, if it's causing this much friction, you know, if it has me on the brink of divorce, you know, it's not worth it to me.
Yeah. How did you cut this off with these online relationships or chats or whatever you want to call them?
Just delete and block them.
Yeah.
So they can't contact you.
Right. And you know, what was it, who initiated these conversations? I'm so curious, like when men when women do this too, but in your case, you're a man. What goes through your mind when you're doing that? Like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking, Jay? What are you thinking? That's what I want to know.
What was I thinking? I guess it was mutual. I don't think I initiated or the other woman initiated it. It was mutual. But my thinking was, I guess it was just a way of getting affection without commitment, basically. You know, sometimes, me personally, I think the reason why I say a married man would cheat is because even though you get an affection and comfort from your wife, it also comes with an obligation. But then if you're going outside of your marriage, you're getting the same intimacy from a woman without the obligation. It's just nothing but comfort coming from this person.
Is it comfort or is it a boost to your ego?
Both.
Okay. What can a woman do? What can a spouse do to prevent you from wanting that? Is there anything?
It is, but I don't think it's as natural, you know, because a woman, you know, if you see something wrong, you're gonna point it out, right?
We've been known to do that.
So, you know, it's just a natural thing. So I guess, you know, after years of being together, maybe it kind of wears down a man, and then you have another woman who's giving you nothing but compliments because they don't know you, right? You don't use the bathroom in their house. You don't, you know, they don't do your laundry, so they don't know the real you, but they just give you nothing but compliments. Whereas you have your wife who knows you when you're sick, knows you when, you know, the bills are late, knows the real you, so she's gonna point out the real you. So sometimes, like you said, the ego can go down a little bit, so you meet someone who boosts up your ego.
All right, because you feel more you feel sexier.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't feel...
And I think it's different for women because women are constantly, like, no matter what, you're always going to feel sexy. That's my opinion. Women are always going to feel sexy. So sometimes maybe a man might want the same thing.
Yeah. Well, all right. Do you think a woman always feels sexy?
I mean, even a woman goes to the supermarket, she's constantly complimented, constantly looked at. You know, it's always in the back of her mind that people find her attractive or people, you know, want her. Men, sometimes you might not always have that in your mind because your only outlet is through your wife, and your wife is also an obligation. So it's weird.
I don't know. I don't know your wife, so I can't vouch for her. But I know from my experience that, no, I've probably felt lonely or unsexy or unattractive in relationships. I don't always feel that way. I mean, your wife might be different. You know, she might be she might know how amazing and awesome she is and never doubts herself, but I know that I have in the past. But, you know, it is hard when you're in a relationship to not feel connected. Did you feel like maybe you had lost, maybe it wasn't so much comfort, that possibly it was you had lost a connection with her?
That's definitely possible, and I think this process kind of reinfigured our connection, because we had to talk about how we met. That's how we started things off. We had to discuss how we met, and things that brought us together. I guess it brought things back into remembrance and kind of rekindled our thought process of why we ended up together in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, from what you're telling me, she's pretty hot, right? She's very attractive. You don't know why she would ever doubt herself, but yet you find yourself doing exactly that and seeking out some attention to help boost your confidence and kind of get a little excitement, right?
Yeah.
And I know that if I've been in your shoes where I'm like, well, I don't feel confident or good maybe where I am. And then I notice that if I'm in a relationship and I'm enjoying getting attention from somebody else, because that's happened to me before, then there's a problem in my relationship. Because when I'm happy in a relationship, I am oblivious to all other men. Like, I could care less. Because my guy is pretty awesome. You know what I mean? It's not that it's not like I have blinders on and I don't notice an attractive man or something, but I'm definitely not tuned in to people flirting and stuff like that as I would be if I weren't getting it from him.
Okay.
The one. And so that was always a red flag to me when I, in a marriage, that, oh my God, all of a sudden, someone else is giving me attention and I kind of like it. And I kind of caught myself flirting back a few times. And, I remember having this conversation with my husband. I'm like, something's really bothering me. And he was busy. My husband was busy all the time and on the go, and I was alone a lot. And we were having a conversation, and I said, I feel guilty, because I'm enjoying another man's attention. And he's like, why? That's normal. And I'm like, no, I don't think it is. Call me crazy. Number one, I'm telling you that another guy's giving me a lot of attention. And number two, you're telling me you're fine with that.
I guess we see it differently, I guess.
Yeah, but I guess so. And maybe it's a man-woman thing. And I mean, I was real young at the time. I didn't, I was so confused. I'm like, why is someone else giving me attention? I'm married. Why am I enjoying attention for someone else? I'm still kind of a newlywed. This is crazy, know? And, but I like the attention, and I realized, I want that from my husband, and he had no time to give it to me. That's what bothered me most. Is I want him to look at me like that. I want him to give me that kind of attention. He was like, "Yeah, I'm over it. I'm working late, that kind of thing." And so therefore, I enjoyed and relished in that attention. It's kind of like maybe you feel that way. I don't know with her. Maybe you feel that she's super confident doing her own thing, and you're like, "Well, here I am, time on the computer."
It could be that. But do you think, all right, here's another moment, and this was wrong also, but, I remember getting married, and we went to our honeymoon. I was in the hotel, and I was, enjoying ourselves. And then on our way back home, I don't know what happened. It just seemed like walking to our building, it just seemed like it was just nothing but women. I just realized wow, I married her, and there's so many women in this world. I don't know. It was just cold feet afterwards. It just hit me this is the last woman I'll ever be with. There's so many women in the world, and it scared me. And I think that's what kind of brought me into that zone.
So had it been going on since you got married that you've been talking to other women?
Probably not too long after. Not right away, but not too long after. I guess it's a mental thing maybe to see do I still got it? Even though I'm married, but do I still got it? I don't know. It was wrong, but that's why I'm in counseling now, trying to fix it.
So do you think it is fixable? Do you think that maybe you'll stop doing Facebook, but now you'll do it on Twitter? I mean, what's your plan?
No. I'm done because I realized, this is the person that I want to be with. So I got to work on myself and block other women out.
Because there can be so many rewarding things about a healthy marriage.
I understand that.
Yeah.
It's just.
I mean, not that I know, because I haven't had a healthy marriage, but I heard that there could be.
It's just, I think, for men, I think it's the mental aspect of just knowing that, you can't be with any other women, and just that, it just makes you want to, kind of tiptoe back, even though you know you're not supposed to. It just makes you want to just try it, but it's definitely wrong.
Yeah, I could see that, and I hear that men do wonder, oh my God, now am I stuck? Am I, gonna lose your masculinity because you are kind of off the market, right?
Yeah.
Is it gonna get boring? All that kind of stuff. But have you found with her?
It felt like my wedding ring was so heavy. It felt like, every woman looked at me and they automatically see my wedding ring right away. It's a mental thing.
That's funny because a lot of women find that attractive. So, they're like, oh, man with a wedding ring, that's a challenge. I'm like, no, that's crazy. You don't know what his wife is like.
Exactly. Nah, definitely you don't know what my wife is like.
Right. You haven't met the other half. You better analyze the situation. But, I don't know, talking to other people who've been married a long time and stuff, they talk about having a lot of compromise, a lot of patience. You kind of learn to tolerate certain things that maybe you didn't think you could, things like that over the years. But the biggest thing is talking to some friends of mine who've had what I consider great marriages, and a great marriage is one that lasts. That's my definition, is one that lasts the test of time. But I talk to people and they've said, there have been times where we've hated each other. There have been times when we've been so in love with each other. There have been times where we're just kind of doing our own thing and raising kids and living life, and then they come to a place where they have to reconnect and kind of start over again. But it sounds like a lot of friendships that I have where you go through phases where you're hanging out all the time, and then you kind of are doing your own thing. And then maybe you get in a fight and you're kind of mad at each other, and then you reconnect and everything is good again. It's like a life cycle of its own. And I'm guessing that marriage kind of does the same thing as any relationship. It evolves over time and everything. But if you were to look ahead, and I know it's obvious like you want this to work out because the two of you are, going to counseling and working on these issues, what kind of relationship do you hope to have?
I guess going back to ground zero, going back to our friendship before things got complicated, before, kids and bills and things of that nature. Just going back to, just our own relationship, just enjoying each other's company without having conflicts and arguments and things like that. So just enjoying being with each other.
How do you do that?
That's just the hard part. But I just think just taking time, it's a lot of time, just making the effort, just, maybe finding time at home, what we've been working on, no TV, no phone for at least an hour. We just talk about each other's days. Just something like that, just to break the monotony and, focus on each other.
Yeah. When you guys met and were dating and you were in love and that whole new stage, what were the top 3 things that you found so attractive and awesome about your wife?
I think she was very, I don't know how this changed, but she was extremely easygoing. She was very easygoing.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I just enjoy her company because she was very, very easygoing.
What else? That's one thing. There's got to be two more.
Oh, nah. Of course, her just her conversation, her mind, the way she thought, she just viewed things differently because I'm a New Yorker and she came from the South, so she just viewed things a lot differently, and I enjoyed that about her.
Right.
And her and her looks, of course, and being affectionate with her, I enjoyed that. I don't know how vulgar I could be, so I enjoyed being affectionate with her.
Yeah, you said like the first thing you said was she's easygoing, and then you said, but things have changed. Is she no longer easygoing with you? Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I think, of course, I think that's it, but I guess it's understandable because our situations change. Now we have a child, and now we have, we wasn't living together at first. Now we're living together. We pay bills together. It's more obligations. So I think it's hard to be easygoing when we got to make things, go smoothly.
Yeah, you have to be an adult and be accountable. How old is your kid?
He's 5.
5. He's a real person.
Yeah.
He's like, he can talk and tell you all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so that makes things a little more, tense sometimes.
Well, of course. I mean, families are not the easiest thing. I don't know. I don't have any kids.
Okay.
That I know of, but I'm sure from what I've learned from my friends that it's an everyday 24/7 process.
Definitely.
If you were to say how have you changed in this marriage? What were you like before? Like, what are 3 characteristics that you had before when, like, you would say that she liked most in you?
I think I was more outgoing. I showed her more affection, and I was more honest. I think, doing this, I became a little more sneaky and to myself because I was, talking to other people. I wasn't as direct with her. So I think those are the 3 things. I was more honest with her. I was more affectionate with her. And what was the first one?
You were outgoing, more outgoing.
Yeah, I was more outgoing. I used to take her out, and we used to enjoy the city together. And I strayed away from that. I can admit that.
Do you guys have a date night?
That's something else we've been working on. We're gonna start working on that within the next month or so.
Yeah, one of the things one of my brothers does that I think is super cool is he and his wife have a standing date every Thursday night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's smart.
And it's an unbreakable date. Nothing can break it, ever. They will never let anybody else join them on their date, until, after, they say you can meet up with us, after a couple hours or after we have dinner or something, but they always make a standing date. And it's always, on a Thursday, I think. And they have the regular places that they like to go and hang out and things that they like to do, but that's their night, so that no matter what happens during the week, they know that they're always going to reconnect and sync up.
Okay. That's smart.
Yeah, and I just think it's the coolest thing. And he said, it's our night. I will never break the date with my wife because if we start saying, okay, well, we'll skip it this week and go do this, or you go do that, he goes, then we get out of that routine and we stop doing it. And he goes, and that's when communication problems happen. You're not making the time. But I love that they do that, and because to me, it also speaks louder, wow, they really go out of their way. And you know what? Any relationship that I've been in, I think we all get lax. Well, let's just stay in, or let's not go do this, or you know what? You got to do that. Okay, no big deal. And pretty soon it's you're not doing your hair, you're wearing sweats, right?
You start taking each other for granted.
Yeah, and it's no longer, now it's just convenient.
Yeah.
It becomes a place of convenience and what's easy versus when we're dating, I mean, we're doing everything we can to make sure this person sees our best self at all times.
Exactly. You're right.
Why don't we, my question, like, why do we stop doing that? I mean, sure, we get a little comfortable. I get it. But to completely stop, I think, I've learned too. I look back, I'm like, wow, we probably shouldn't have stopped doing that, because that was the romantic part. That was the stuff that kept it sexy. That's the kind of stuff that makes you feel good. What woman doesn't like to get dressed up, throw on a pair of heels? Okay, I know there's some women who don't like to get dressed up or throw on a pair of heels, but like to be treated, like go out on a date or something. Or a guy, I mean, some guys are like, why don't, my boyfriend now, he's like, you need to plan something. But it's good because we can call each other out on that. And he's like, I've planned the last couple of things. It's your turn to plan something. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Or my turn to treat or something,
Exactly, yeah. I think you got to be a lot more mindful. I think people, like you said, people become lax and we just, go on cruise control and not being more mindful of things.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I guess, comparing to a video game where level 1 is always easy and fun, right? And then as you get up in higher levels, it gets harder and harder. And then what do? You start over again. And I think we do that with people. It's like, okay, we'll start here at level 1. Ooh, that's fun. This is a great game. I'll keep going. Oh, it gets hard. I'll start over.
Exactly.
And then we go find someone else and we start over instead of working through and getting good and like mastering that stuff. Like I don't know. I guess if we put that kind of focus on a relationship, it might be different.
It's definitely true. It's definitely true. I just think, in my mind, I think if I could go back, well, I guess this is what I'm trying to do, go back. Just always treat her like my girlfriend. Yeah. I know she has the title as my wife and, as the mother of my child, but just always treat her as my girlfriend. And I think if I could keep that in mind, I think things would be good.
That's really good. Well, how do you think you would treat her differently as a girlfriend than you would a wife?
You constantly, basically, I think when you're married, you just feel like the game is over. I think, how you saying how people start over in the games, but I think with marriage, people just think I won her. She married me, the game over. Let me chill now. But I think you can't chill. You just got to keep playing. The game is not over yet. It's just it's another level, but you can't go on cruise control. You got to keep playing.
Yeah, that's really true. And especially my thing is how are you going to separate? You have all these responsibilities together, having a kid and bills and jobs and things like that, and you're living together. So you're together 24/7. I mean, minus work and whatever. But how do you? It's almost like you have to shift gears, right? And treat her differently, and now take her out and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
I guess it's more. It's just you gotta have that consciousness, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I've been working on is changing a lot of my behaviors from previous relationships because, if we do things enough, they become a total habit, right? And I feel like I have to unlearn everything that I've learned since I was a kid. Like all these behaviors, I've built up great habits. Well, not great habits, great shitty habits over all these years, right? It's just become like it's in the Leanne.
It's just you.
It's in my book of what I know. And and I realize that they're not working for relationships because I keep, doing the same thing over and over again, which is making me crazy. So, great. So then I find myself in a relationship and I don't want to do what I used to do. So I threw away that book and now I have no book to go by. I'm like, somebody give me a suggestion here, and I got to make sure I take it from good people because otherwise I'm going to end up going back to the same crappy behaviors I was doing. And that's really hard. Like I found that to be a big challenge. I mean, it's not that it can't be done, but it can be very frustrating at times because I'm like, okay, well, this is what I would normally do. This is my knee-jerk reaction mode, what I would do. But I know that I shouldn't be doing that. I don't know if you're already finding that, like when you guys could potentially have an argument, like if you've been arguing a lot lately, when she says this, your automatic reaction is to be like, God, again, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Do you find yourself being so aware of what you're saying and what you're doing?
I'm trying to be. I've been trying to, not to argue. I've been trying, but I guess we haven't had arguments because I've been trying to be more aware of my actions. So, of things that I know she might say something about. So let me just be proactive and do this just to avoid arguments. So that's how I've been trying to change my behavior.
Yeah.
Because I know, sometimes I get, I used to take her for granted, sometimes I leave things around and assume she's going to clean it up. And, she'll do it. She'll just keep cleaning it up. But then eventually, she'll get tired of it and she'll start arguing. And I think she's crazy, but maybe she's not crazy because she's been doing it for so long.
And she's been doing it so long and it builds up resentment.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
She's not doing it because I know I've been in her shoes, so I totally understand where she's coming from. And it comes from a place of, we're doing it, but damn, we're cussing you out the entire time we are doing it. Instead of doing it and going, you know what, this pen, he keeps leaving, or you keep leaving your shoes. You keep leaving your shoes all over the apartment, and I'm constantly picking up. But the thing is what I had to realize is it wasn't a problem for you to leave your shoes there. It wasn't bothering you. It wasn't your problem. It was my problem because it bothered me, you know? And it's like, so if I chose to pick up your shoes all the time, you weren't asking me to do it.
Exactly.
It was my choice to do it. Yet I was mad and I was blaming you and I was chewing you out. You didn't even know it because you were at work.
Exactly.
Right? And it's that kind of thing. And then when you get home and initiate a conversation and she blows up in your face and you're like, holy shit, I just got home. What happened? Like, how did this happen? And then she's like, the shoes. And you're like, what do you mean the shoes? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's been cursing you out for 8 hours.
Oh, dude, you didn't even know when you got off work and headed home that this was coming. But that's exactly how it is because in our mind, I mean, we do things, instead of doing things because we want to and we expect nothing in return, that doesn't mean what you're doing is necessarily okay either.
Yeah, I've learned to understand that. Yeah. I think there's just people do things out of habit. And like you said, sometimes you have horrible habits that you just develop over time. And you just got to learn, because you got to think your partner didn't grow up in your house. So they don't view things the same way you view things. So, you leaving things around might have been okay in your parents' house, but in their house is like, what are you doing?
Exactly. And that's just it. And that's where I have to step back and go, okay, he left his shoes out. Big deal. They're shoes. He'll trip over them when he comes home and he can put them away. Right? Why can't it be that simple? Why can't it be that simple? I don't know. But I had to retrain myself and all kinds of stuff like that and put it in perspective like, okay, so he left his shoes there. Great. He's not leaving, a prostitute there. He left his shoes there. There's a big difference, right?
But sometimes you have that same emotion, though. You get that upset.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of have to laugh at myself sometimes when I'm like, really, does that really annoy me? Is in the scheme of things, is that what I choose to pick a fight about? So, that's something.
So, is cheating only physical, or is mental? Is mental cheating real?
I would say mental cheating is real. That's my personal thing. I would say mental cheating, you're checking out in some way on your partner.
Okay.
And I almost think mental cheating can be more damaging than the physical part. Not that I'm telling everybody, go have sex with somebody if, it doesn't mean it. I'm not saying that. But I think, why are you in the relationship then? There's something, I see cheating as a symptom of a problem. I see it as a symptom. It's not the there is something else wrong in your relationship. You're missing something from your relationship if you're going outside to get it, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever that is. Because if you say cheating is just physical, then you're discounting the relationship you're in as just physical. Your relationship is more than that.
You always think whenever cheating comes up, then there's definitely an issue in the relationship.
Absolutely. There's something missing. But it's like not being plugged in all the way. If this light starts flickering, don't go turn on the other lamp. Fix this lamp, before it sets a fire. Come on, right? You got to fix that stuff. Right. I don't know. That's just kind of what I've come to the conclusion that I think cheating is that. And nowadays, just because it's over the internet, I think people they feel a connection and a bond with people over the internet because even I've read articles too, where they say if you start dating somebody, the worst thing you can do is go stalk them on the internet and learn everything about them. Because then when you see them in person, you feel like you know them better than you actually do.
Wow, that's true.
So it escalates and it ramps up the whole dating process so that you, instead of going on 10 dates to learn this stuff, you've gone out on 2. Because you've been Googled,
Yeah.
Before that, you had to actually go out and really get to know somebody and ask the questions and learn things on your own by doing and seeing and that kind of stuff. And I think on the internet, when you're talking with somebody on Facebook and stuff, that you end up learning so much more about them and establishing this connection in your mind that you don't really have.
That's true.
That you generally take weeks or months to build with your wife, but now because of the internet, you can learn that much in such little time with somebody else. And the other thing, too, one last note on that great question that you asked me, is I find that what would hurt me, and I don't know if anyone's done this to me or not, I can't remember off the top of my head, but when I'm dating somebody and we spend time on the phone at night and we're talking, or we have those little texts that we do during the day, right? Yeah. If you're doing that with somebody else, you're probably not doing that with me.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
Because
so now, you used to do it. Now you're not doing it anymore.
You found someone else to do that with. And those little texts and those little phone calls, I don't know, have you dated, when you and your wife were first dating, did you guys call and like you were in your place and she was in her bed and then you'd lay awake and talk to each other for a long time?
Yeah. Or we'd text each other.
Yeah. Like, when was the last time you did that?
No, you're right. I was like,
no, because instead you were doing it on Facebook with somebody else.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely right. You're right.
I like the fact that, my boyfriend and I, we live in separate places right now. And I think it's kind of cool that we're not rushing into something, because I like the fact I can go home at night and he's like, did you make it home safe? Like we have these cool... Yeah. That doesn't happen when you live with somebody. That tends to go away. True. And it's like, how can I do that? If you do
spend the night, you still have that excitement.
Yeah, like, what if you picked up the text tonight and, like, sent her a text and she rolled over on the other side and picked up her phone from the nightstand, and was like, what? And you flirted with her, like, the way you used to do. I don't know. It seems so easy. Why don't we do that?
That's true. I guess it's another thing. You just got to be mindful. People don't think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like when we were talking before, and it's like, what are the things that you used to like about her? But like, even go farther than that. Like, what are the things that you used to love to do? That you'd be like, I've got this move I'm going to put on her tonight that she's not expecting. We think about all of that stuff when we're dating, but the minute we get in this commitment, we're like, game over.
You don't care anymore.
It's like, I don't have to do all that work. But that's when the work begins.
That's true. Yeah, like I said earlier, you just feel like, after the wedding, you feel like you won the game already. You feel like the game is over, you won, and it's over.
Yeah. Have you guys talked about getting a divorce at all?
At the height of our arguments, it was talked about, and I think that's when we just say, we're talking out of anger right now. Let's just talk to someone else about this, and if we can't resolve it after that, then We just gotta move on.
Yeah.
But so far, the counseling has been working, and we've been able to communicate a lot better.
That's fantastic. I really think that's great that you're both willing to work on it, because it's not often that both parties are willing to do so,
Yeah.
or that you're not, and it's good to hear that you're not using it. Well, you did say you were right, but, you're not. It doesn't sound like you're going in there and not listening. I put you on the spot.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm definitely listening just to show how right I am.
No, that's great. That's great. What do you think, what do you hope to accomplish out of the counseling besides not arguing? Do you have any goal set of like what you'd like to see transform?
I guess maybe to be to be happier than we were before we got married. Go back to that dating phase, that type of happiness. From when we first met. So if you can go back to that feeling, then I think that'll be good.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. I think it's possible. It's hard, but I think it's possible.
Well, if we have anybody out there who listens and are in your position where they're not divorced, but they're in a marriage and having some hard times, what advice would you give them?
I guess, like with me, you just got to really decide what you want to do. Would your life be better if this situation was over, or would it be better if you continue the journey with your significant other? And for me, I chose the latter. I chose that my journey will be better if I continue going with her. It would be better than without her. So I just chose to fight for it.
That's great. That's great. It's hard making that choice, isn't it?
It is. It's a self choice. It's not something that. It's one of the decisions that you don't discuss with your spouse. It's something you got to really decide within yourself. Is this what I want to do? Is this where I want to go?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy for you, and I really hope that this works out. And I'm excited to see, more growth from your counseling sessions and your communication and everything that you're telling me about. You speak very nicely about her, and it sounds like that's really, that's a positive thing. I talk to a lot of people who are through their divorce, and it's not easy to find all those great things anymore. So you're on a good path, it sounds like. And I appreciate you being so open and willing to share all of your information and experience. And, especially since you're going through this right now, I know how stressful that is and everything, and can be very painful.
Yeah, but it's a relief to talk about it. So,
well, good. Good. Well, hopefully we can have you back on and get an update sometime in the future. Okay. That would be really cool. And if she'd like to join us, she's always welcome. And if she'd rather do it without you, we could do that too.
That'd actually be interesting. That would be interesting.
I'm not a black woman, but she might want to talk to me. That just cracks me up. Yeah. So we will keep in touch, and I appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you so much for having me.
There you have it. That's my interview where I was interviewed by Leanne Linsky from Lafter Divorce podcast. A lot of fun. Hope you gained some insight, and hopefully you don't follow my wrong footsteps, and you take things seriously as it pertains to marriage. Of course, I take it seriously, but I made some mistakes, and you learn from it. It's a growth process, and that's why I like this podcast, I Hate Average Podcast, where we can have different conversations, right? We could grow each other, we could learn from each other, we could learn from each other's mistakes, and follow the paths of success. So, definitely thank you guys for checking out this episode. Also, support Leanne Linsky and I In her Life Lafter Divorce podcast, she has some great guests, some great insights on relationships. She gotta be a little she gotta know a little something. I think she was divorced twice or 3 times, so she knows a little bit of something about marriages. So check out her podcast. It's a little bit different. And thank you guys again for this week. Thank you for all the support. Of course, continue to email jay@averagejay.com. I love the emails. I love the support. I love sometimes where it's negative comments, but all of it is important. All of it is great just to know you guys are listening and you feel any type of way. I love it. Continue to rate and review on Apple Podcast app. You can also rate and review on the Google Podcast app also. And we're on SoundCloud. You can also check out my Facebook page, I Hate Average Podcast. It's just spelled out on Facebook. Also, that's why I didn't want to have a guest, because I'm a little bit under the weather. But also, I have the Instagram page, I Hate Average Podcast. You can check that out. You can also contact me there. Twitter, I Hate Average JAY. Contact me there. Continue all the support. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys for this past year and a year and a month now. And it's been great. I see a spike in the downloads, so you guys have been sharing it and I guess talking about it. So thank you guys for all the support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Of course, there's some things going on politically that I don't want to touch yet, because I want to have the right guest on and talk about it in a thorough way. So I don't want to just touch it and leave it alone. It's too much to get into to just touch. So usually, I start the podcast off talking about my opinions on what's going on in the world, but I don't want to touch it just yet, because what's going on now is starting to be a little bit too much. So within the next couple of weeks, I'll have the right guest on and we can get into things thoroughly.